can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Weiss here. I'm founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders like the founders of P90X, Baby Einstein, Atari, many more, and how they overcome big challenges in life and business. Now, what if you could get 5 shots in your legs and never be at risk for open heart surgery? I asked longevity expert David Kekich what scientific advances he was most excited about, and he said gene therapy, Liz Parrish, and BioViva Sciences, and we have all 3 today. So today we have Elizabeth Parrish. She's founder and CEO of BioViva Sciences. They build gene therapies to help with genetic disorders and aging to greatly extend the lifespan. She's also the founder of BioTrove Investments, which is committed to fund research in regenerative medicine, and she is known as the woman who wants to genetically engineer you. Liz, thanks for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to chat, and I always like to get a fun fact that most people don't know about you. I'm surprised that most people don't know this fact about you, is that you're a vegetarian.
I am. I've actually been a vegetarian for 20 years. And most people, I don't talk about it a lot. I don't push it on anyone. And so when they sit down to eat with me in a steak restaurant, because they choose the restaurant, right, They're surprised that I'm like ordering all the sides and not the steak itself.
What made you decide to become a vegetarian?
I lived on Capitol Hill in Seattle for a while growing up, and I was pressured by some friends to try it out. Okay. And I did. I've always been really active. I think that, they were doing it for more moral reasons and things like that. Mm-hmm. And I agreed it was something that I should try. I found that I was just as active on a vegetarian diet as I was otherwise, and so I just stuck with it. It just seemed like if I wasn't missing anything, that there was no reason to go back, and so I just continued to stay the course.
Yeah. See, I was sort of surprised by that because, I watched your talk about, and we'll talk about the 5 shots in your legs, open heart surgery. I thought you were going to say I eat steak every day because all I need to do is give 5 shots and my heart disease, my atherosclerosis is no more. So I want to talk about some of these, advances. Start off, talk about those 5 shots in your legs and never being at risk for open heart surgery. What did you mean when you said that?
Okay, so we're working on a therapy right now for atherosclerosis. Mm-hmm. We were initially working on it for sarcopenia. It's a gene that's a myostatin inhibitor. So it inhibits myostatin, which allows your muscles to grow bigger. We were working with this, and we found some anecdotal data that, in fact, it was reversing atherosclerotic plaques. So heart disease kills 1/3 of the population, right, and this is the major killer. It rarely has to do with your the cells in your actual heart. It's the plaque in the lining of your arteries that busts loose and causes the problem.
Yeah. So how do you begin? Because that seems like a huge undertaking. How do you begin to start to do research on something like that?
Okay, so what BioViva does is we look at research that's already been done. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of data out there already. There's a lot of animal studies. Many of these gene therapies have come all the way up through animal models. And this very gene therapy that we're working with is actually in phase 3 clinical trials with children with muscular dystrophy. Wow. So what we do is we look at the trail. We look at the track. We don't start from ground one. We don't want to be a hard research organization. A lot of that work has already been done. Yeah. We want to pick up the pieces where it's already been done and see what can actually be done in humans to save lives now.
Yeah. So what is most exciting to you with the advancements of anti-aging?
Well, I think that obviously gene therapy, this is the culmination of the most elegant therapies that we could devise. The simplicity of it is just absolutely beautiful. To just take your cell and insert the gene that creates the protein that you need to be younger, healthier, stronger, faster, more visually accurate is it's nothing short of miraculous.
Yeah. So how is it administered?
By injection.
Yeah.
So gene therapies are administered by injection, and I know that people don't like shots very much when you're young, and when you're older, people inherently don't like the look of a needle coming at them. But if it could keep a scalpel from coming to you, and the barbarisms of how we do medical techniques right now, I think that it would be very worth it, and I think people would be really excited about the switch.
So how does it work? You get a shot. How does it know where to go from there?
Okay, so we actually work with AAV, which is a very specific viral delivery mechanism. The virus essentially has its replicative cap taken out, so it can't replicate in your system. So our viruses can't make you sick. But what we do is we insert the gene that we want your body to start producing the protein from into the viral vector. The great thing about AAV is there's several different serotypes. And so a serotype is kind of like a specific type of virus to infect a specific type of cell. So it only transduces into the cell that we're targeting for the most part. So that would be, neural or, skin tissues or muscle, things like that.
So the muscular dystrophy, they would target the muscle tissue and it would go in and help with that.
Exactly. They would target myocytes.
So you do a lot of, research across the board of what is out there and what is being researched. What has blown your mind from when you actually dug in and you found out what has already been done?
Well, what I was really amazed by when I got involved in this is that aging in animals had been reversed.
Yes.
That muscle mass had been increased. The root of gene therapy had and its outcomes had really amazed me, how powerful this tool is. And it makes sense. I mean, if you believe in evolution, if you believe that your genes are transcribing who you are, what you look like, how you think, and everything else, which is based in scientific evidence, you can see the power of this tool.
Yeah. I remember one of your talks, you said the only gene therapy that reversed aging in animals. So what was that? What did they do?
So that's an HTERT gene therapy. So that's a telomerase-inducing gene therapy. So what it does is it turns on telomerase in your cells, and it lengthens the telomeres at the ends of the chromosomes. And when you lengthen these telomeres, you shore up a lot of the damage that has been done to the DNA over time. And it resets what's called the Hayflick limit. So if you need me to go back, I can always go back and really make these simplistic. But many of your cells have a limited number of times that they can divide, and it's based on how long your telomeres are. So when telomeres get short, bad things happen. That's what Bill Andrews says from Sierra Sciences, and it's absolutely true. You can actually measure the length of your telomeres and see how close you are to essentially your mortality.
Really?
So yes, you can. And short telomeres, you're very close. So you're born with about 15,000 base pairs. And then, you're conceived at about 15,000 base pairs. You're born at 10,000, and by the end of your life, you're about 5,000 base pairs. So this gene therapy actually lengthens those telomeres, resets that limit, and allows your cells to divide many more times than they would have otherwise.
Yeah. Wow. That's really, it's amazing that we figure that out. How do you measure them?
Well, there are a couple ways to measure them. One way you can do it is you can measure that telomerase is turned on in a cell. That's one way, and that's sort of a speculative way to do it. They do that with cancers. In cancer, about 80% of cancers have telomerase turned on in them because it's one of the cells that often gets torn open and turned on during those. But the other way is they can actually measure lengths through different companies, and I think that LifeLink is one that you want to look at for that, and they can tell you the specifics on how they do that.
Yeah. So what are you most excited about with BioViva Sciences lately?
What I'm really excited about is that we're going to proceed into some testing and see what happens with people under compassionate care who are dying now, what happens when we use some of these gene therapies in their bodies. And this is where the work had actually lacked evidence, okay? That's why I got involved. So I had started a company called BioTrove. We may have talked about that, and that was seeking investment for these type of sciences,
Right.
to solve these very important problems. What they didn't have is they didn't have human evidence. And so what BioViva has come together to do is to create that human evidence
Mm-hmm.
and to use these therapies in compassionate care scenario in scenarios where we may not only be able to reverse somebody's disease, but reverse the aging of their cells as well.
Mm-hmm. So what disease are you starting with, or do you start with different ones?
Yeah, so we're starting with two. We've shot for very big targets. We're shooting for atherosclerosis and Alzheimer's.
Wow.
And I'll tell you why. So when we were first looking at the myostatin inhibitor, we were looking at it for sarcopenia. And with sarcopenia, this is basically muscle wasting over time. So after about the age of 30, you lose a percentage of your muscle mass every year. This leads to frailty. Frailty kills about 6% of the population. It's, you hear about that. You hear about people falling down and
break
breaking
a hip, then yeah.
Yeah, so that's a big deal. And so we wanted to get these people running upstairs again. And we had every bit of data that this therapy worked. As a matter of fact, it's the one that I told you that they're actually using in children for muscular dystrophy. After treating a patient or two, we actually found evidence that it was reversing atherosclerotic plaques.
Wow.
That their tests were coming back very different. One of our patients, after 1 year, we have the CT angiogram, and both their left and right arterial arteries are completely clear of plaque.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so what we need to do is we need to do the right thing, which is move this forward and to see if our anecdotal data is actually correct. So we want to raise money. We want to bring in investment to run clinical trial on humans to see if, in fact, this is the case, if this will be the case across the board.
Yeah. So have you already started the human trials, or when did those start?
We're raising money for that now.
Okay.
We have treated a few patients with the therapy already.
Yeah.
But again, that was for a different indication. It's just the numbers were coming back so clearly on reversal of these plaques that we feel like it's a mandate now to move forward to see what we've got.
And how do you choose the patient? Because you could choose probably people on different ends of the spectrum of how sick they are, or they're on that brink of sickness.
Right. So we'll do it a little bit differently for each treatment. Generally, what we do is we choose people over an age of 50. We choose people that are out of their childbearing years. We choose people on varying ends of the spectrum, depending on what part of the trial we're in. For Alzheimer's, we're actually going to be moving forward with the telomerase-inducing gene therapy. With that treatment, we'll actually choose people that have Alzheimer's but are in probably early to mid state, then working into later state as we go.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, Liz, what's the hardest part of your job?
I love my job, so I'm not sure what's hard about it. It feels like it's a real big call to action. I'm very passionate about it. I think I love everything about it. What is the hardest part of my job? I like all of it.
Because I'm thinking, these are huge things that you're dealing with, and they require a lot of funds, to do that. And so I'm thinking, with all you've done, how do you get these people on board, or companies, to fund this?
Yeah, okay, so definitely funding and finding investment is number one most difficult thing. I like everything around that. I like going and talking to people and getting people encouraged about it. Yeah. Biotech has a very long-standing hard road to travel, and we are trying to sort of uproot that. We're trying to change that at the very point. So in the past, a company would have had to raise $1 billion, and now that's skyrocketing to almost $2 billion to get through clinical trials in the U.S. Yeah. What we're doing is changing this inherently by changing our platform completely. So what we want to do is we want to try to treat people under compassionate care in a different setting and in a different way that costs a lot less money to get something through the FDA. So this is probably the biggest jump and the biggest leap. But what we can do is we can take what would have cost $2 billion and then what happens on the other end of $2 billion is a very expensive cure. What happens is a lot of investors want to get their money back.
Right.
We can take something like that and we can actually raise just a few $1 million and do this in a completely different way that will get us breakthrough status here with the FDA and hopefully change the paradigm of how we can help other small biotechs catalyst off of our platform.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking when I was looking through your bio, there's so much experience on the fundraising side of things as well. So I was curious of what has worked for you, because obviously, you're going after huge endeavors here.
Yeah, so what we have is we have really passionate people. We have generally we look for private investment because we're doing things a very different way.
Yeah.
We look for people who want to extend their life. We have a lot of interest. So we're the platform to find out if what we have now will in fact cure disease.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's a mandate to help people to create a better scenario of outcome for people who are sick, who have no other option. Right now, we're losing over 100,000 people every day to the disease of aging,
Right.
Various aging symptoms. And so we have more than enough pool to draw from to not just create hope, but potentially create a cure.
Yeah. What's been your favorite story, if there is one? I can imagine if they hear, Alzheimer's, that people are just reaching out to you, family members of someone who's suffering with it. Do you get a lot of those stories saying, please, just do a trial on my mom or dad or grandma, because they're just so desperate?
Yeah, we do. We actually have a lot of people who reach out to us to treat their family members, to treat themselves. Maybe they have an early diagnosis. It's a very difficult situation right now because gene therapies are amazingly expensive to build.
Yeah.
So you cannot get a gene therapy for a low price anywhere. What we would like to do is to have the ability to test these gene therapies in very sick people. And what we hope is that we'll be able to drive the prices so low that we will make a situation where the government can actually give these therapies for free.
Wow. How expensive is the administration of a gene therapy like that for Alzheimer's?
Yeah, so it can be really expensive. So, you're looking at over $100,000 generally.
Yeah.
You need to have the product made GMP. There's a high standard. They're very expensive therapies to make. And it's a very expensive proposition.
Now, is it something that obviously you have to go through trials and research, but if someone comes to the organization and says, I don't care, money's no object, I just want it done, can that happen?
Well, as long as they're educated, they understand, and we have signed a lot of consensual papers. I mean, they would have to have a massive understanding of what they were going through, that this, in fact, would be a permanent gene therapy in many cases with AAV.
Right.
We would want them to be in a scenario where, of course, we felt like we were treating a patient.
Right.
I think that there's a line between human enhancement and disease, and I think that we're going to blur that line in the future. I think that we're going to.
Right. As soon as you say muscle enhancement with the heart, I'm thinking athletes are going to start injecting them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and it could actually protect athletes against, heart attacks on the field. I think that what will happen is initially we'll start treating disease, and these sort of therapies will be moved back younger and younger, much like immunizations. We'll want to catch these diseases long before they happen if we really want to save the money down the road, the cost incurred from these very expensive diseases. So Yeah, I know that there is a lot of hesitation one way or another, but I think that you do have to think very carefully about when something is enhancement and when something is preventative medicine. And I really think that this line will be very blurry, and we will start treating people younger and younger in the future.
Mm-hmm. What I also noticed about your site is you have this amazing scientific advisory board. I'm wondering some of the valuable advice they've given you and the company that helped shape BioViva.
Well, yeah, they definitely have given me great advice, and one of the thing that I think resonates with me from all of our scientific advisory board is that we have a big push to go and get it done.
Yeah.
That the most important thing is that this gets done. The most important thing is that we don't sort of retain a traditional image of 20 years through trying to get something through the FDA and coming out with a very expensive cure that may or may not get to the general population. The idea is to get this done in our lifetime so that we can benefit from it.
Right, right. Is there any particular person on the board that you remember giving you some really crucial advice at a crucial time? Like I was looking at, you have just all these MDs, PhDs, Dr. Andrews, I know you've mentioned a few times in your talks in here. Has he given you any specific valuable advice as you because this is, a new path, this, for society and for aging.
Yeah, so I think, yes, I can say definitely yes, but again, it's just a resounding go and get the job done from every one of those persons joined, because they knew that what we were doing was really pushing forward good medicine, pioneering new therapies now in a way that would make it so that they would be available to the world in shorter order than the system that we are living under right now.
Yeah. So Liz, what's some of the most common objections you get from people? Because I'm sure you get a lot of people who are excited about this, and probably some people who want to argue against why this may not be the best thing.
Yeah, well, I don't think I've ever sat down and talked to anyone who didn't agree that it was a good idea to cure suffering. Through disease the best we can. We can't obliterate all suffering on the planet, but we can start with these diseases. And I think that people do like the idea of that. I think that a lot of people have worry about things like world population, and we have lots of answers for that. So, we do study that. We do study demographics and what the world looks like. As a matter of fact, the population is switching so much right now that for the worldwide population, this isn't in one of the industrialized countries, but for the worldwide population, by 2020, we'll have less people under the age of 5 than over the age of 65. Wow. And people are calling it the silver tsunami. And that accounts for every country. So as life expectancy goes up, fertility rates go down, and that's across the world, and regardless of the religion, regardless of the culture. So I think that this is one of the questions that I get quite often, and we already are at a massive decline. But the problem herein lies is that those people who are under 5 become the workforce. They become the workforce. They become the people who are paying for the silver tsunami illness train that's about to just wreak havoc coming right through. This is trillions of dollars, on the line, and unfortunately, everything comes down to money and whether you can pay your bills to keep your lights on. So this is something that if people look at the numbers and they look at the diagram, they can see the strong interest in creating a youthful, healthy population. Yeah. Because these young people can't afford to pay these right. healthcare costs.
If we don't slow that down, it's just going to hit like a tsunami, and there's going to be big issues.
It's going to be, and now people are living longer than ever. So people are living up to 120 years. We're seeing that, and it's becoming more and more prevalent. As a matter of fact, it's predicted that by 2030, 400% more people will live over the age of 100. People are retiring halfway through that. So,
Right.
you know,
Yes.
survive. You know, when I ask people, there'll be hesitation. I'll say, how would you like to reverse your aging and go back to work? They're like, no, I want to be retired, but they want to have the ability to do all the things that they want to do. And most people are like, if you could make me feel young, strong, look healthy, yes, I would definitely go back to work. You know, people are retiring at 65 with disability, you know, with disease. So this could be a big switch, a big change for us.
You know, Liz, it's interesting. I want to go back to the early days of your career. How did you get into this? Where did you start?
Well, actually, I had gotten a science degree. I had taken biology at the University of Washington. I did not get a PhD or an MD. So, yeah, it is interesting. So where did I come from? I actually had worked in the tech industries for years. And I was unfortunate enough to be touched by childhood disease. Then I had a myriad of friends also be touched with the same issues.
Like a family member, you mean, or?
Yes. So I ended up spending some time in Children's Hospital. And I saw a lot of sick kids and a lot of kids that, you know, probably are gone now. And it was very, you know, I can talk about people getting old and the suffering diseases of aging, but childhood disease is very difficult for me.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to solve that problem. And with the knowledge that I had had in the past, I thought there had to be an answer to this. And so I had gotten involved in stem cell work for a couple years. Yeah. And I had tried to become a platform for education to educate people what was happening in stem cells. And then I ended up finding the SENS Foundation, and I saw that they were going to have a conference on genetics of aging. Yeah. So I got on a plane and I flew out to Cambridge, UK, and I sat through many lectures, many of which I couldn't understand, and many of which actually the microbiologists sitting next to me couldn't understand. But
you're like, it's not just me. Yeah.
Yeah, what I did is I got all of these people off to the side and I said, what does this mean? Right. What can we do with this? Yeah. And one of the people that I actually pulled to the side was George Church. And I had no idea who I was talking to. I was just stepping in, and I left that conference with a completely new idea in my mind, and that we could effectually change disease from the genomic level, and that we would in fact do this, and we would change the paradigm of childhood disease through curing aging as a disease. They're all actually closely entwined, and I thought that there were so many old people in the world that would be interested in this, that through evidence-based medicine in treating aging as a disease, we would in fact be able to cure childhood disease. So a lot of people don't know that I actually got into this to cure childhood disease.
Yeah. So when you discovered it at that conference and you said, okay, this is the path I'm going to take, what'd you do next?
Well, I started BioTrove.
Oh, you did? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Started BioTrove. I several people that I had talked to at that conference, I hooked up. I said, I want to try to find funding for what you're doing. Yeah. I met Bill Andrews soon after. I predominantly worked for Sierra Sciences, trying to find funding for them for a year. The problem is that there was all of this great scientific evidence. There was age reversal in animals. There were a myriad of great gene therapies that were starting to hit clinical trials. But there were two things that weren't happening. One, in the most extreme cases of age reversal, these were not being used in humans. So there was no human evidence that any of these worked. Yeah. And number two, we were still treating one symptom with one treatment. Okay, so for instance, the muscular dystrophy, if this in fact is a treatment for atherosclerosis, something that affects the entire world, you don't want to have muscular dystrophy to get the treatment, and we don't want to have to wait 30 years to find out if these children who had muscular dystrophy in fact don't die of heart disease.
Right.
All indications are pointing that, we can use each gene therapy for a specific use to actually tackle the bigger problem, which is the cellular degeneration that's happening in the cell over time. So, a lot of people think of Alzheimer's and cancer and heart disease and nephropathies, which is kidney failure, as, diseases on their own, but evidence is pointing to that actually it's aging as a disease that is the disease. And so that's why we tackle aging. And that actually tackles everyone. So, you have aging when you're born. You have it throughout your life, and then you die of it. But if we can tackle that cellular aging, we can change the paradigm of how we die, and we can change the paradigm of also what's happening to children.
Yeah. So, Liz, what brought you from BioTrove to BioViva?
It was just that. I traveled around. I got to travel around to a lot of incredible places and meet a lot of wealthy persons who were really interested in the science. They were interested in putting money in. Mm-hmm. There was no human proof. Mm-hmm. I spent then at that point about 2 years putting BioViva together and finding medical doctors that would in fact treat patients with gene therapies, finding support systems of people who were interested in helping me move this forward. It's been an incredible journey. It's actually hard to find people who will do those things. Microbiologists that will help devise therapies after looking through, hundreds of papers of research and putting together how would you treat a person with this gene therapy? How much do you need? What will it take? It's still really in its infancy.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting when we were talking a little bit earlier about the talk you gave at People Unlimited, and that they had tried a lot of things for longevity purposes. Did they find, and obviously they brought you on to talk about the gene therapy and the next phase, the science of what they can do. Was anything working for them that they could do on their own?
Well, I'm sure that good choices, good healthy choices, exercise and things like that were certainly helping them. If you want to lengthen your life, you do not want to be obese. That will definitely shorten your life. You definitely want to eat well. You don't want to make bad choices. You're feeding your cells. So they had made a lot of good choices, but what was being seen was that inevitably, the body still accumulates this damage. So there are plenty of ways to slow cellular degeneration or aging, and those are those things that they were doing. But there are a bunch of people who are radical life extensionists, meaning they want to bust this bottleneck of the 120 zone. And there's one way to do that, and that's with good cellular science.
Yeah, I've never seen so many standing ovations in my life in one talk.
Oh, they're fantastic. Really wonderful.
I think it was because your cool cartoons, too, that you showed.
Yeah, I do. I like to use cartoons because I really like to lighten the conversation. There's a way to make this way too heavy. A lot of people don't want to talk about death, but it's actually something that we all have in common. Mm-hmm. So how do you talk about that and sort of keep it light and easy? Well, you have to interlace it with some fun and some laughter, because otherwise people are not interested.
Yeah. No, I like the one, I think it was a mouse talking to the patient saying too bad, your treatments won't be approved for a while. And the mouse was walking out of there fine.
They cured me. I go home today. I'm afraid it'll be 15 years before you see a treatment.
Right, exactly. And it looks like you do some work with corporations too. What kind of work do you do with the Stevia Corporation?
So with Stevia, we have a collaborative effort to look at genes for actually diabetes type 2. So they have a database that they've been running some big data on, and they are trying to hone down what in fact might be the cause of diabetes type 2. We know that it's a combination of cellular degeneration and genetics, but we'd like to know exactly what that is. One of the gene therapy that I've already told you about, the one that we were using for sarcopenia, that we want to test for atherosclerosis may in fact be a great treatment for diabetes type 2. It increases muscle mass, it decreases white fat. So this would definitely help these people get essentially a leg up on the disease. By that, it increases insulin sensitivity as well. So this is one angle that we have already, but we want to continue to search the genome for other potential weak zones.
So how did that come about? When I read that, I'm like, that seems random. Stevia Corporation and BioViva.
Well, actually probably the best thing to do is to talk to Bobby Brooks about that. They came to us, and Stevia First is trying to create healthy choices for people who like the sweet taste of food. Yeah. Obviously, stevia being an alternative to sugar.
Yeah.
And, I think that the people who get together to create a company like that are really motivated to do things for health purposes. Yeah. And so, he just so happens to be of a scientific mind, as well as his board of advisors, and so that was a good connection for us to make. It was a strong connection. We want to be connected with health too. So I know that, like we were talking about before, you pictured me eating a steak and taking my shots so that I could get plaque. Unfortunate. Likelihood is that I'm building plaques whether I eat a steak or not, but maybe just at a little bit slower rate.
Right.
These therapies tie in directly with lifestyle choices, and so what we're excited about this gene therapy for sarcopenia and atherosclerosis is that perhaps people who right now are inactive, that have not really been active their entire life because of the effort, because of their inability to sort of get over the curve of, when you go out and you exercise and now you're sore for a couple of days and then they just don't want to get back and do that again. They don't realize that they're ever going to get through that. This would, we hope, create a healthier society, a society where, I just took a hike a couple days ago that was really extreme, and we only ran into 3 other people on that trail.
Right.
Wouldn't it be nice if we ran into 20 or 50 or 100 and everyone was going up to the mountain to see what the view looked like and really enjoy our Mother Earth.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So it's full.
So I was going to say, what other partnerships do you have or that are in the wings that you would like to make with these type of companies? Because I think it's an interesting, when I read that, I thought it seems like a perfect match. I wouldn't have thought about bringing like a corporation in with BioViva.
Well, we'll see. There's a couple that I can't talk about yet because they're in the making. But one thing that we would really like to do, call out, is we would like to get some sort of collaborative effort with a company that does gene sequencing, so that we can actually follow our patients and have them do the sequencing and find where our genes landed in their cells, and
right.
That would be fantastic, and show that how long the genes stay in their cells. With AAV, it's very likely that we will produce these proteins for the lifetime of your body, and that was one of the reasons that we chose that viral vector. But that's a partnership that we'd like to make. Someone, it's nice to put in some parcel of companies who are really good at what they do. We don't have to be good at everything. We'd like to be good at one thing, maybe 3 things, and create a community around what we do and let them be good at what they do and help us there. And that would be fantastic.
Liz, so out of the people you're not talking to, I don't know if you can answer this, but who would be your ideal partner for a company that you haven't talked to yet? Maybe someone out there works for this company.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think that we'll find all of our good fits.
Yeah.
There are a lot of large companies out there that have recently got involved with trying to cure aging as a disease. I'm not sure if they're good fits for us or not. What we would like to do is find the cures, get the evidence, build the therapies, and then have governments all around the world actually disseminate these therapies for free. So it's not a big business model. It's just about getting the job done. If health was free, the government would save $1 trillion.
Right.
If health was free, we'd have an incredible landscape on which to create a better society and take care of the environment.
Yeah.
And then BioViva will go on to do all sorts of fun things. I always say we'll make your eyes green and your eyes purple and your hair green. We would like to go into the funner aspects of gene therapy, but right now we're battling staying alive long enough to achieve all those funner things.
Right. So I always ask, since it's Inspired Insider, what's been the lowest point in your life and how you fought through those tough times?
Well, I really think that it was seeing all of those sick kids. I think that it was spending some time in Children's Hospital, and I've got a friend who has a child who has Crohn's disease. I know a child with diabetes type 1. I've known children born with congenital diseases that didn't survive. Yeah. I've had experience with children with cancer. Those are the low points. And from those is where the fire of creativity comes from. When I get on a plane and I have a meeting and I come back and, I don't know whether it's either here or there, and I'm so tired, I think these kids are waking up every day in that hospital and there's no cure.
Right.
And, until there is, I can keep going because, as an adult, I've had my firsts. I've been able to do all the things that these children won't be able to do. Right. And then they're not the only one affected. Their families are affected. And my friends who have these children, I see them affected all the time and them trying to create a normal world around something that is really insidious and should not exist as soon as we can eradicate it. So I take those low moments and those are my sticks and my tinder, and I light a fire and I just keep going.
That really drives you forward, yeah.
It drives me like that.
Yeah, I could tell. What about the proudest moment when you look back on? What have you been especially proud of?
I don't have those. I think that I'm still climbing that hill. There's nothing to be proud of until we're done.
Any milestone with BioViva that you were able to hit, even though it's getting the next level?
Not till we're done.
You have your eye on the prize.
Yep. You won't catch me out celebrating things that are part and parcel of what really needs to happen.
Yeah. Who's been an influential mentor for you?
I have no heroes. I believe that I like the humans in general work towards making a better world. I like that science works towards accomplishing tasks and getting things done. I admire anyone who stands out and actually gets the job done. You can't just talk about it. I guess this is really off, but if there was somebody I really liked, I think it's Jane Goodall in the work that she's done with primates, because she's a person who is tireless, even though I think that she'd probably appreciate a break, and she gets out there. She gets it done. She goes in the field. She goes in front of people. She does all the things that she didn't intend to do to make a better world and to try to fix a situation.
Yeah. So, Liz, what are a few of your daily rituals that you find to be important that other people should look at? Maybe I should be a little more like Liz in that respect.
I don't think anyone needs to be like me. I work all the time.
What's a typical day? Like, what time do you wake up in the morning?
Okay. Sometimes I wake up as early as 5:30 in the morning. One of the first things I actually do, and this is every day that I'm at home, is I go outside, whether it's icy or rainy or whatever. I go out in my bare feet and I actually just say thank you to the day.
Really?
It's an interesting thing. I was not raised religious or anything like that, but every morning I will go out and I do my stretches and I bow down and I say thank you, and that's the way I start,
I love that.
and that's the way I finish the day too.
Really?
Sounds very bizarre.
I love it.
I really feel like you need to stay in touch with your environment.
So whether it's rain or snow, it doesn't matter.
Regardless.
Wow.
You should be thankful.
Yeah.
You should be thankful because I have a warm house to go into. It doesn't matter if my feet are cold. This is the world I live in, and if I want to live longer and I want to do great things, number one thing is to appreciate the earth.
Yeah. I love that. That's great. I
weird.
could visualize that. There should be a poster.
It's funny that I say that. Now that's really there's something that nobody knew to do.
And so, I have one more question for you, Liz. I really appreciate your time. I just love the intensity, of you just have your eye on the prize and you're just not going to stop until you get it.
Not going to stop.
I think I read the longest LinkedIn testimonial I've ever read, and someone left for you. It was like, you know what I'm talking about? It was maybe 4 pages long.
Oh my God.
Check it out on your LinkedIn profile. Okay. Dr. Andres something. But yeah, now I could see why. I have one last question. But before I ask it, just tell people, where can they find you? Where can they find what you're doing?
Well, you can go to biovivasciences.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best way to find us. We have a little website. There's not a ton of information on it. There's some information on it. You can contact us through the contact page, and I often will respond to the emails. I have someone who responds to them, but if anything that's special, or either asking for a specific question, or if you say you'd like to ask something of Liz, it might take me a minute. Or a couple days, but I get back to those emails. Yeah.
No, people should check it out and just look through the team. And there's also a YouTube video that you gave to the People Unlimited, which is really interesting talk that people should also check out. So last question, Liz, is what should we leave with people today? What advice or parting words?
Yeah, so I hope that we were able to sort of make things clear about where medicine stands, and I'm not sure if we did or not. Gene therapy, we just stand on the precipice of the biggest change to medicine in the history of the earth, of the world, of the humankind. I really want people to look into it and see it for what it is, to see how powerful it is, and yet to see how the benefits. I want them to spread the word about it. I want them to contact their legislators and say that this is the type of medicine we want. We don't want to be taking pills that right now, if you take a pharmaceutical for atherosclerosis, you're likely to die of that very disease. It may slow it, it may ameliorate it, but what we want to do is we want to cure it. And we really need people to pioneer the effort to not only spread the word, but to insist that they have access to this kind of medicine, insist that the costs of this kind of medicine are driven down significantly. Yeah. One company, we will start, we will do the best we can, but it's going to take more than one of us. We need to have a situation where we can treat people here in the U.S. under compassionate care scenario. We need the rights to access medicine for ourselves. I want you to have the right to say, I want a gene therapy. This is my body and I'll use it as I please. And I want the right to cure my body of disease. We need all of this grassroots movement in order to make a really big paradigm shift in how we treat disease.
Yeah. So what should people do next with that?
They should come and see what we're doing. They should educate themselves, and they should get really excited about the future. I think that those are the things that they should do.
Yep.
And if they are investors, they should invest, because this is where the future of this technology is going.
Yeah.
And those that are in right now are obviously going to benefit the most from it.
Yeah. Liz, I want to be the first one to thank you. Everyone should check out bioviva-science.com. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.